Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. I'm Justin Taylor. I'm the founder of Hyper Brew. Today, I'm going to be going over our latest updates to Bolt UXP, our framework for building UXP plugins. These updates were made possible by the Adobe Fund for Design. So yeah, really excited to announce these and kind of walk through them today. And yeah, just make the whole process from migrating your CEP extensions to UXP plugins that much easier. So again, I'm Justin. Hi. I run Hyperbrew. We automate the boring so you can create the amazing. And we do that by building custom plugins for Creative Cloud. This is us at Adobe Max last year. And so basically, we build all sorts of apps, plugins, anything that our clients can't find off the shelf to accomplish their workflow goals, we can build a custom solution. So desktop apps that interact with host apps, automated editors for Premiere Pro, template generators for After Effects and Photoshop, pretty much anything that they need to, get their workflows automated, get their massive, workloads across the line, we can automate for them. But when we're not doing client work, we love to invest in open source. And open source, is a win for everybody. It helps our projects get more visibility. People can contribute and use them, and it's just a win-win for all parties. And we have a bunch of frameworks for the various Adobe plugin avenues. So we have Bolt UXP for UXP plugins, Bolt CEP, Bolt Express for Adobe Express, and we also have Bolt Figma for Figma plugins. And recently, this year, we received funding from the Adobe Fund for Design to add some updates to both Bolt UXP and Bolt Express, which we're really excited to go over. Yesterday, in the Express Office Hours, we went over the updates for Bolt Express. And then today, since it's Creative Cloud, we're going to be going over the updates for Bolt UXP. So if you're not familiar, Bolt UXP is a lightning-fast framework for building Adobe UXP plugins in React, Svelte, or Vue, and it's built on Vite, TypeScript, and Sass. So you can see in the video here that basically you can start a new plugin just from the command line. You can run yarn create Bolt UXP, answer some prompts, check which apps you want, and then it's going to go ahead and scaffold your whole plugin so you can get right into building. So you can start a new plugin with yarn, PNPM, or NPM, depending on which package manager you like best. You can use Svelte, React, or Vue, depending on your preference of UI framework. And recently, we added a WebView UI option, which was a big overhaul. But this allows you to add a web view as your entire user interface for all of your UXP panels. That way, if you have complex UIs that aren't supported by the native UXP widgets, you can opt in to use a WebView UI, and now everything that worked in CEP UI or on your web UI is now going to work in your UXP plugin. So it's not for everybody. If you have a simple app with a few buttons and drop downs, vanilla UXP makes the most sense. But if you have a complex user interface that you don't want to be restricted by those UXP limitations, WebView is now an option. It's really easy to enable and work with. Full type safety. So we have TypeScript front end, back end for the Photoshop, the Premiere APIs. It's also type safe manifest configuration settings. So you can catch errors at development time rather than at runtime. Currently supporting all of the apps that support UXP. So that's Premiere, Photoshop, and InDesign, as well as templates for beta apps. Instant hot reloading is a big one. So this is powered by Vite. So you can be editing, make changes, and then instantly you'll see those updates reflected in your plugin. So it's a lot faster than the default file watching. And it's also C++ hybrid ready. So if you're not familiar, UXP has a unique ability to add a hybrid plugin aspect to your plugin if you want. So that's adding additional C++ code that can do things that you can't with the UXP API. So things like doing system calls or creating servers or accessing external binaries. That's something that typically wouldn't be possible in UXP. Hybrid allows that to be possible, but it's a lot of setup. So we have templates for Xcode and Visual Studio, as well as build scripts, signing scripts, Node.json scripts for Mac and PC, just to make that whole process easier. And if you don't know and you don't like C++, you can actually use the hybrid plugin just as is. It's pre-signed and ready to go if you want some of those starter functions. Optimized build size, of course. So you're only shipping the code you actually use. So fast uploads, downloads, all that good stuff. We also have easy scripts for packaging to CCX when it comes to delivery, which is the install format for UXP plugins. And then we also have a zip option. So if you want to bundle that CCX with PDFs or README files or other assets, you can then additionally bundle that as well for shipping. And a bunch of other features don't have time for today. But what's next? So in Bolt UXP 1.3, we have 9 powerful improvements. So, and these were made possible by the Fund for Design. So, really excited to jump into these new features. All right. So first up on the docket, we have Async Exec. So previously we had exec sync, which was again part of the hybrid plugin aspect of Bolt UXP. So you could run system command lines, communicate with external binaries. So that was a great first step. However, if your process took a long time, that would lock up the plugin UI, which is not optimal. If say you're using FFmpeg to encode a video that's going to take seconds or minutes, you don't want that to be freezing up, or you don't want to have to wait for that. So we introduced an asynchronous version of this. So it's exec. It works just like Node.js's exec does, but essentially you can see here in the top you require the UXP add-on. And then there's the exec sync function, which has been in UXP, Bolt UXP since the early days. But then below, we now have exec. So say something's like going to take 5 seconds long. You can keep doing other stuff, but then you can attach a dot then, and then when that's completed, now you can then do operations on that. So for any kind of processes that take longer, exec is going to be a huge help with those types of tasks. All right, debugger support for VS Code and UDT. So this one was really exciting. So recently there was a VS Code UXP debugger released by Jarda. Huge thank you to Jarda for putting on all the crazy hard work I'd imagine that was to come up with. But we wanted to support that for Bolt UXP as well as the built-in UDT debugger tools as well. So Bolt UXP now comes with templates, and you can pick between which debugger you want. The UDT one is built in, and so it's nice and convenient, but it's a little more limited. So if you want the full features of VS Code, you can use Jarda's extension, and Bolt supports both of those, and it's really easy to switch between them in configs. So if you see in the top version, that's UDT, you can set a breakpoint line and then debug line by line. In the bottom, you can do that same thing in VS Code. So that works with Bolt UXP, with TypeScript, with source code. So it just makes line by line debugging a whole lot more streamlined. Helpers for Premiere. Okay, so if any of you have been building UXP plugins in Premiere and you used to build plugins in ExtendScript for Premiere, you probably know there's a huge difference. So we are trying to make that easier. So we have added over 30 helper functions for Premiere Pro to simplify some of the complexity, handling edge cases and that sort of thing, just to make the migration process that much easier. So a lot of these were from Bolt CEP that we had in the Bolt CEP days with extend script, just to kind of make different repetitive tasks more simple. We've migrated the ones that still apply, but a lot of things have changed with UXP. So we also added some new ones that really make sense for Premiere Pro. So you can see here, you could just import like a for each video track. And so instead of having to drill down, get the number of video tracks and then do a for loop and all that stuff, it's an easy helper function that allows you to get there a lot faster. So this is something we were excited for ourselves and also for the community to release. That now you can pull from these. We also have some for Photoshop, but we did a big task here getting all these built out for Premiere. So really happy to release those as well. Global error handler. So this is actually interesting because the news about the global error handler today is news to me. So this is kind of before that, but still relevant because UXP 9.4 isn't released today. But at the time of writing this, UXP did not have a global error handler. So basically we'd have to do try catches, right? And it was messy in the code. So we tried to make this a little bit more simple by having a polyfill. Essentially, we can't actually polyfill the window.error event. But what we could do is say, okay, we can attach an error handler and you can pass in a function like send to Sentry or whatever your logging service is. And then basically you could wrap any code that might fail in a safe wrapper, essentially. And if it fails, then it's going to trigger that global error handler. And then you can also handle the errors in line. So you can check if an instance is an error and then handle that in line. And if not, like continue. So again, still usable for backwards compatibility. 9.4 isn't even released. I think it's some of the apps today. But this is something that can work today in UXP. It just helps the whole handling errors more gracefully and not having those get swallowed and missed by the lack of the global error handler previously. So relevant for right now. Next year maybe not so much, but that's in there now, which we're excited about. CCX scripts for install and uninstall. So when you develop your UXP plugin in dev mode, that's one thing, but then you always want to test in production, right? Because like files can change or permissions can change. So just making the install and uninstall process that much easier. You can now just run yarn ccx install. That's going to install all of your ccx files in your dist or ccx folder, and then you can test them, in production, see if anything breaks. And then if you want to remove them because you want to switch back to dev, you can just run yarn ccx uninstall, and it's going to go ahead and uninstall all of those for you. And that's using UPIA under the hood, but it just makes that process a little bit more streamlined. So yeah. Okay, live and accurate UI color theme. So this is a big one. So we have now added a color theme handler for all operating systems, apps, and appearances in both the vanilla and WebView UIs. So you can now rest assured that your background color and your text color will be updated for both Photoshop, Premiere, and InDesign for vanilla UXP as well as WebView. So Photoshop broadcasts the color changes and presents them correctly. Currently, Premiere and InDesign, I know they're working on getting the CSS variables added. So for the meantime, Premiere and InDesign are polyfilled. Photoshop we're just pulling from the actual values they provide. But in the future, we'll update this so it's the actual values reported from the app. But for now, we've polyfilled these with the values. But as you can see in the looping animations, yeah, we got to match dark mode, dark lightest, and all the apps. So that is no longer a roadblock for building UXP plugins, which is really nice. So let's see here, standalone helper function module. Okay, so kind of as in addition to the mention about the 30 plus plugin, helper functions for Premiere Pro, we also decided to make the helper functions their own standalone npm module. So it's now called Bolt UXP Utils. And that way it's easy to update. And also if people aren't using Bolt UXP, but they still want access to the helper functions, they can get them this way. So this is something that's just going to be nice for, going in the future. Sometimes Bolt UXP doesn't always make sense if you already have your entire plugin, built. You don't want to have to, rework a bunch of things, but that's something that we can, still make available to them. They can still use. So yeah, you can easily just run, npm install Bolt UXP utils and then start requiring the helper functions that you want for Premiere, Photoshop, and start using those. So yeah. Media Encoder and After Effects support. So Bolt UXP is now ready for Media Encoder and After Effects support, but don't get too excited. We still have to wait for Adobe to actually officially release them in Media Encoder and After Effects. But when that day comes, Bolt UXP is set to go. It can work the day that it turns on, essentially. So yeah. Yeah, so that's covers all of the new features for Bolt UXP 1.3, asynchronous exec, debugger support for VS Code and UDT, 30 plus helper functions for Premiere, global error handler, CCX scripts for install, uninstall, plugin load, unload, live and accurate UI color themes, standalone helper function libraries, and then Media Encoder and After Effects support ready. So yeah, a bunch of stuff. This is definitely our biggest update since launch. So really happy to get these all out into the public. So yeah, if you want to get started today, Bolt UXP is of course free and open source. You can head over to hyperbrew.co/UXP or start today with Yarn Create Bolt UXP. And if you build plugins with Bolt UXP, let us know. We'd like to feature tools that are using Bolt UXP on our website and our social medias. So definitely let us know if you're using it. And if you want, we have a Discord as well with a growing community of over 600 developers sharing tips and tricks on Adobe tool development. So we'd love to have you part of that. It's free to join. And if you need more priority support, we of course do consulting and development. So if you need help on a consulting or development basis for your UXP plugins, feel free to book a free discovery call with us. We'd love to chat. But yeah, that's it for today. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Justin. That's amazing. Cameron, would you like to build with Bolt UXP as well?
I need to give it a go. It's got some pretty cool stuff built in. It's awesome to see all the work you've done for this last release.
Yeah. We're not sure if you had seen this, Justin, but there has been some really positive feedback also from Geoffrey and Eugen and Christopher, who seem to use Bolt quite a lot. And I think we have still 2 questions. Erin, one was from you.
Totally.
Yeah, sorry, the noise has gotten much louder in here. I was asking if, because you use UPIA under the hood, does Bolt happen to install UPIA if it's not present?
Good question. No, currently it doesn't. It just looks for the install location. So, I mean, that should come with any Adobe install, I think, unless there's maybe older installs or in some custom cases, right? It might not exist, but it will tell you, it'll be like, hey, UPIA is not installed if you're trying to run that, and it's
Okay.
missing. But yeah, not currently
trying to-
shipping that. So
Yeah, it's pretty rare, and it would only happen in certain enterprise
Yeah.
environments. I know another company that does that.
Yeah.
That's why. But
Okay.
hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully we're prioritizing to get that fixed soon. So
Yeah.
it'll be more easy.
awesome. Let's see here. Lawrence asked, "Are you releasing Bolt UXP utils for InDesign?" Yeah, so that's definitely something we might add in the future and stuff. Currently, our big push was for Premiere in this initiative, but yeah, if there's stuff you'd like to see for InDesign, definitely let us know. We want the Bolt UXP utils. This is the start of that whole repo, so I see it as growing. As far as helper functions for all of the apps eventually. So. But yeah, first big push was just Premiere, and then some of the ones we had already for Photoshop. So, but yeah, definitely open to that.
Cool. Yeah, and perhaps just to get this out again, you mentioned this at the beginning that we have funded you with a fund for design.
Yes.
This is still available. Most of you may know it. I just shared a link to our developer community hub. You can find the landing page for the fund there as well. While we don't. Well, we might, but we don't focus on funding new plugins so much for desktop anymore. We use the fund for design a lot when XD came out, when we started with Photoshop on UXP. Then we transitioned a lot to with focus on Adobe Express add-ons. There might still be some funding opportunities for, let's say, new plugins that really deliver something that we don't have on the marketplace yet. But more interesting, I think, for this group, we can still fund, and we're looking forward to fund you guys if you have good ideas for developer tools. Which means either if you have a good idea and say this could help myself, but also other fellow developers with a smoother process for UXP development or for the migration from CP, talk to us. We might help with some funding. If you say, like, Lawrence, your feedback, oh, Bolt is great, but I could imagine a lot of new features for Bolt that would help perhaps more for InDesign work. Talk to Justin, and perhaps we can give Justin some more funding to focus on InDesign more, or release some stuff that comes from this community. And thank you also for calling out Chada, who is here in the chat as well. This is UXP debugger. Chada, I need to get back to you anyways. Let's see if you have time for the next office hour, since there's also a lot of updates on your end. So we also funded Chada for the UXP debugger. We'll see further updates here. So yes, let us know where we can help.